loud. According to,
All right.
I'll just make up a word. All right, there you go.
All right, we are recording. We are live. Hello, and welcome to episode 44. 44! Episode 44 of the Georgie and Patty Show.
I'm Georgie.
And I am Patty. Today, our episode is We Read It So That You Don't Have To. In this case, Georgie read it so that we don't have to. And the book is a Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday. And for our quote of the day, I'm just going to bring up our quote of the day, maybe, or I might have to just make it up. Okay, my computer isn't responding to finding the quote of the day, so I'm just going to recall the quote of the day through memory. So quality in your product or service is not what you put into it. It's what your customer or client gets out of it. And that is a quote from Peter Drucker. And if you want a fast forward business education, just go to Google and type Peter Drucker quotes. Give yourself, 45 minutes to read them all. And I think that's like the instant MBA. Dude is so wise. But this is one of the things that Georgie and I were chatting about before we got on this call, where a lot of our clients, a lot of the people that we've worked with have really get tripped up in that. And if you've ever been in this place where you feel like you're pouring a lot of yourself, a lot of quality, you put a lot of effort and time into something, and your client / customer is not appreciating it, that they don't understand it, that kind of a thing, then that quote and this episode is for you. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to my partner, Georgie, and she can illuminate us on the book of the week.
All right. I will share my screen for my slide thing. I had to stop myself. I love this book. I love Ryan Holiday. I love his work. He's one of my favorites. It's funny when we start doing these things, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do, like, I'll do all Ryan Holiday books. I'll do all Brad Stulberg and Steve Magnus. They only have 2 books. I guess that wouldn't take me too long, but I really do find authors that I just love so much. And I'm like, oh, more. So I'm sure you'll be getting a couple more of those. Actually, I haven't done a Brad Stulberg book, so the next one I do will maybe be one of his books because it's cool. Okay, can you see that okay? There we go. Okay. We read it so you don't have to. And as Patty said, today it is going to be about Ryan Holiday and his Perennial Seller book, Permission to Read the Book or Not. This reminds me I was going to add another permission slip and I forgot, but I'm going to give you one at some point throughout this little session. Anyways, you'll get the second permission slip. So yes, Perennial Seller, the art of making and marketing work that lasts. So people claim to want to do something that matters, yet they measure themselves against things that don't and track their progress not in years, but in microseconds. And I think we definitely do that a lot, where we're looking for, like he says here, right? You want to create that, want to make something that's timeless, but we focus instead on immediate payoffs and instant gratification. I'm not getting the results fast enough. I put this out. Why haven't a million people bought it yet? Why don't I have 50 signups? We're totally just looking for these really, really quick things instead of slowing down and, looking more long-term, and we talked about this when we had Tyrell on the show, right? What's the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year pilgrimage or journey that we're on? And really, where does this one little thing that I'm creating right now fit into the long-term scope of my life and my work and what I'm doing? And in this kind of instant gratification culture that we live in, I think it's a really important thing to kind of keep reminding ourselves of, because it's really, really easy to forget. And I think this book is, not only is it about creating one piece of work that can last for a very long time, it's about looking at your your whole career in this way, the whole body of work that you want to make, and what is this, how do we create, a business and career that's going to last for a very, 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 very long time. So the book is split into 4 parts. You've got the creative process, positioning, marketing, and then your platform. So I'm kind of going to go through a little synopsis of each of these pieces. He has some really great questions. So part of me was like, maybe I'm giving you too much of this book, but he has some really good stuff in here. So I'm sharing it. And that's just the way it is. So the first thing, though, is that when we're entering into this creative process is to realize that the work that you create actually matters. Like, you really have to, to care about this, and so to create really, really great work, it takes time, and sometimes it's hard. But I think the first step is caring. Knowing that you are here and you want to create something valuable. And then with that becomes the right intent. So imagine that we have one person that's creating work, and they are, I'm just going to call them like they're the Instagram influencer. I'm really here because I care about money and I care about fame, and that's why I'm putting stuff out here for you. And then imagine we have the guy who really, really, really cares about the work. They really feel like, this is what I'm on the planet to do. I'm here to make a difference and an impact, and my work is a way for me to do that. Who are you going to bet on? Like, really, who do you think is going to be here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road? My bet's going to be on the person that is in this space where I'm literally called to do this, where it's like, I feel like I have to. This is literally my life's mission. So the second thing we want to do is when we're sitting down to create our work, and whether that's, a book, a podcast, a program, a course, any of those things, what's my intention behind doing that? Because we may not have a lot of control over some of the things that will make this work say last, like, the timing, and maybe we need some luck, and maybe we need some help promoting it, all of those kinds of things, which we may not have a lot of control over, but we absolutely have control over the intent. The intention that we're going to sit down and create this from, that's totally within our control. And then the other piece of this is, what are you willing to sacrifice to create this work? Because it is going to be work. I think anytime we create something of value and we are really passionate about it and we're really driven to it, there's going to be a little bit, we have to give something up. So are you willing to give up a few, nights out, a few dinners with friends, maybe some of the groups that you're in that aren't really, as I talked about yesterday, even in alignment with your buckets, so that you can take the time to create this really great work for the world? And it's looking at this as it's more of a marathon than a sprint. We talk about this a lot. It's the slowing down, it's the process. This isn't the overnight breakthrough, but it's really, I think, getting things into perspective when we're creating really valuable work that's going to make a difference for people. And then the other thing is about, we want to test often and test early. And we talk about this a lot in the work that we do. It's about this experimentation. It's about not waiting till everything is, fully complete, fully packaged. I've got my branding, I've got my website, I've got all of that stuff done. And I don't actually even know if people want the thing I'm creating. I haven't tested it enough to even see if they get the results I'm hoping they will get. So it really is, as you are creating things, this is why we love, the one-on-one work when you're starting to create stuff. And if you want to create a program, start with some one-on-one coaching so that you can test things and you're getting that continuous feedback if you're willing to pay attention. And I think this applies to anything. When we started this show, we were going to start it for a week and see what happens. See if we like it, see the feedback we get, see if people actually show up. you know? So it's really, really important to not get so stuck in your kind of own opinions of how amazing something is going to be that you're not looking for feedback and you're not doing the testing. And then there's a couple of questions that he says in the book that almost no one asks, or we forget to ask this question when we're starting to create this. And the one question is, who is this thing for? Like getting really, really clear on, even if it's a, you know, you can go as simple as this social media post that I'm writing, this article that I'm writing, this show that I'm doing, this program I'm creating, the coaching that I'm doing. Who is this thing for? And then the second question is, what does it do? What is this going to do for these people? Because often I think we just get so excited about the things that we know and the things that we don't, that we want to share, that I agree, we don't go into asking these two questions. And he says, if you can't answer these questions, then you need to stop and you need to keep thinking about it, because they're really critical to creating work that's going to last. And then here's a list of some of his fabulous questions. So as you think about, in this case, let's say, you know, your coaching or your programs or things like that, but what does it teach? What does it solve? How am I entertaining? Because he says people buy things based on, is it entertaining or practical? That's what we want, something that we can, it's actually going to do something for us and I know how to use it. It's practical to my life and where I'm at, or I'm here to be entertained. And maybe it's a combination of both. You know, but what am I giving? What are we offering or sharing? And I think essentially this comes down to that last question, which is, what are these people actually paying for? You know, Patty talks about this a lot when we are doing work with our clients. You know, it really has to be clear of, what am I trading this stack of cash for? What is it really? And often it's not the book, the course, the program, the sessions, but it's what is the value that people are paying? What's it going to actually do for them? Why do they care? And then oftentimes we have to go against the norm. Oh, I went too far. But anyway, pretend we're on the last slide. We have to go against the normal, right? And he has a question in there. He's like, what sacred cows am I slaying by putting this work out into the world? What groups am I willing to disrupt? Who am I going to piss off? Because often that happens when we take a stand in the work that we want to put out there. When we really get clear about who we are, what we believe, what we stand for, and we have the courage to put our own work out there, we're going to piss some people off. And for some people, it literally might feel like we are like in the streets of India slaying a cow, you know, not such a good feeling. And are we willing to do that for our work? Do we really, really believe in it? And then the next thing is to really be humble when we're creating our work. Because often, I think this is where, when we're really excited, it's really, really easy to get a little bit of that arrogance, really self-confident. My stuff is so great. This is so amazing. It's really going to change the world. Everybody needs this. And we kind of move into this really self-confident place. And I think the people who start to create really valuable work that makes a difference for other people, we tend to kind of step back a second and go, okay, I'm also feeling a bit scared. I'm feeling nervous. Is this really good enough? I know I have some experience, you know, in my mind and in my life of how this really works, but I think it's a delicate balance to play here of, we need the confidence to be able to get it out there. And we don't want to show up so arrogant that this is the end all be all, that when we're creating our work, we forget to step into the shoes of our potential clients or our audience, and to look at it from their perspective and see, how can this really help them? And am I creating this in a way where A, they can understand it, they can digest it, it's useful for them? Or am I overhearing my own kind of world of being like, yeah, I got this because I'm so smart and I've been there. So it's a It's a bit of a delicate balance, I think, to walk that line, but important to remember. So to sort of summarize his creative process here would be that it's going to take time, it's going to take effort, and there's things that you're going to sacrifice. You know, so it really is that space of being willing to step into that and be okay with it. That's just because it is your life's work. This is what you do. It's not I'm going to, once this is completed, then I'm done and I'm out and I'm off to something else. You know, this is for people that really want to create something that's going to be long-term in the world. The next thing he talks about is positioning. And when he talks about this, he's like, you are absolutely 100% the CEO of your work. You are 100% responsible for what you create and what you put out into the world. And you are responsible for all the decision making that happens as you create this. Now, we can get feedback, we can ask other people, all those things, but ultimately you need to take ownership of what you're creating. So if you create something and you put it out in the world and the results are less than you had hoped for, take on the responsibility that that's you. What did you miss? What could you have done differently? And really just own those pieces, because often I think we want to go, well, they're just not using it right. Why are they not using it right? What else could have been done here? And this is, I think, where that early testing and early feedback comes into place, because it makes perfect sense to us, but am I articulating this in a way where other people can actually understand it and use it? So really taking ownership and responsibility for yourself and how you're showing up in the creation of this work. And then getting feedback from trusted sources. So when we create things, often we want to get feedback, but that feedback is, I'm going to show this to my mom because my mom's going to tell me how great this is. I'm going to show it to my friends and they're going to tell me how awesome this is, which really we're just looking for validation, and that's fine. And if we want to create work that's really, really valuable in the world, we need sometimes some pretty honest feedback so that we can make necessary changes. And so we really want to be aware of where we're getting the feedback from. And the flip side of this, if you're taking your work to someone who has zero experience with it, no clue, and they're giving you negative feedback, be wary of listening to that too, because you may be getting advice from someone who really has no clue. And then you're making changes based on, because you think maybe as a person, you look up to them, but their experience in this particular area could be really, really, really limited. And that happens quite frequently too. And this is where our own self-doubt creeps in and we think, well, they're better than me. They know so much more. Maybe I'm going to ask them. And they don't actually have experience here. So really be aware of where you are getting your feedback from. And then we want to sort of polish and perfect. And he has some really great questions, I thought, around this space too, of how else can I use this stuff and how else can I see if it actually makes sense. So like I said, if I'm doing a program, would the summary of my program make a really great talk? Might give me an idea of the clarity that I would have with things I'm creating. Are the early users of my stuff loving it? Are they coming back like, this is the most amazing thing ever? I would tell all my friends about this. These are the results I'm getting. You know, and then I like this one too. Does what you made scratch your own itch in a way that suggests it will do the same for others? And what proof do you have of that? How do I know? And then we just keep working at it. So as you can see, this isn't really a one and done kind of thing. And I think this is something like with what Patty and I do, we kind of, these products, and even if you look at your assessments, they're done in a way as you're still working. But it's really important to remember that that first draft that you created is probably not the final draft. You know, we're testing and constantly getting real feedback from the people who are actually buying it and using it. And that it's okay to make adjustments. Because sometimes I think when we join programs or we get coaching and things like that, we think, okay, we're looking at it step, 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 step. You know, did this part, check. Now I'm never going back there. Did this part, check. Never going back there. And that's really not the case when we want to create work that lasts. Thought this was super useful. So, oh, dang it. Let me figure out how to go backwards. I keep trying to move my my picture face because my face is in the way. Okay, anyway, back to this. So he has this one sentence, one paragraph, one page. And what this does is this kind of forces you to be able to explain very succinctly what we have, what it does, and why anyone should care. So he starts with kind of the one sentence. So you can put, this is a book that is about Stoic philosophy that helps people overcome their obstacles. So little sentence. Then if I take that sentence and how can I expand that into a paragraph talking about it? And then how do I expand that into one whole page? And I thought this was such a good exercise because, like I say, it does help you to get to the point of being able to really clearly explain this. And you might do it backwards, maybe writing more until you get up to sort of that one kind of sentence, but at least you sort of have a framework of it. And this then can become that space that is probably useful in your marketing, useful in talking to it about people, but really useful in helping you get clarity about this thing that you're creating. So then within this, he has his 3 P's. So positioning is what your project is and who it's for. Packaging would be what it's looked like and what it's called. And then the pitch is how the project is described and what it actually offers to your audience. So this is what, when he first created his, this would be the Obstacle of the Way book, he had, right, this is a book on Stoic philosophy. So this would be an example of how he shifted it into kind of his little format there, right? So it's a book that uses the ancient formula of the Emperor Marcus Aurelius to teach people how to not only overcome obstacles, but thrive because of them. So this would make someone more interested in reading this book, particularly if I was someone who had a lot of obstacles that I wanted to overcome and then be able to thrive in my life once I ditch those obstacles. So this is just a little example of how he's using that format. And then the other piece of this is why? Why are you creating this piece of work? And this doesn't have to be something that you actually share out loud or share publicly with people, but you need to explore this piece when you're creating work that's going to last. What is it that's really driving you to create this? Really, really underneath it. Like maybe it's because I want to create this piece because I want to really inspire people to do what they feel is impossible. Because I know if people do something that they feel is impossible, it opens up so much possibility for them. They can see so much potential in their life when this happens. That doesn't mean I have to share that, but it could definitely be a driving piece behind why I'm creating this particular piece of work. For me, because I love purpose so much, I love that he's brought this question in, and I typically go back to that for a lot of different things, but really knowing, why am I creating this? And if you're come up with, well, I'm creating this because I need some money so I can pay my bills, I'm going to encourage you to go a little bit deeper, because I don't believe that is a why that's necessarily going to create work that lasts. Now, I'm not saying it's not a valid reason, and if you're feeling really stuck, you're like, yeah, but I need some cash, got it. And for the work to probably be a little more valuable, what's underneath that even more so? So if you had all the cash in the world and all your bills were taken care of and you didn't have to worry about that, then why would you want to be creating your work into the world? What's bigger? How is it going to impact other people? Because I do believe typically these whys are linked to how it can be of service to others. What's the impact it's going to have in the world, especially, for the people that that we are typically working with. And next, marketing. Woohoo, marketing! Yay, we love marketing. So within his thing of marketing, he has this rule that he says we really never want to forget. And that is that, and it might sound a little bit harsh, but it isn't, is that we are insignificant. and just accept your own insignificance in the world, because the reality is the whole world doesn't care about your work. They don't even know your work exists. The whole world, in most cases, we're more concerned about ourselves than anything else. And often we get to that space where we are afraid to tell people about what we're doing. Sometimes it's scary to put our work out there. And when we can step in this space of realizing that actually, in the whole grand scheme of things, we're kind of insignificant. And not from a place, like it's not from a negative place. It's just that recognition that we're just a little dot in this whole huge, gigantic world. And I think what that does is it creates a little bit of humility. And when we're in this space of humility, we can approach things a little more clear-eyed than when we come from being in a place of ego. And also, I think when we recognize that, it's also a little bit easier to share. Often we think, I'm going to put a post out on social media, and all we think about is the criticism that we're going to get or the people that aren't going to like it, and we stop ourselves from doing it. Most people are going to scroll right past. Now, some people are going to go, that's amazing. And some people might go, that's ridiculous. You suck. Whatever. That's why we have that delete button. Just ditch it, right? But I think when we can gain perspective of our little place in the world, and we're here and we can influence our little corner with our tribe and our community, that's really, really, really great. But I think it gives us, again, space. I'm a big fan of how can I create enough space so I can see things with a bit of perspective and show up in the way that I want to show up in the world. And he says that in marketing, only one thing matters when you want to market work that's going to last, and that is word of mouth. So how do I create relationships with people? And it's only through creating really valuable work that makes the difference that's going to get you positive word of mouth. I'm going to say that creating kind of crappy stuff probably create word of mouth too, but not in the direction that that you want it to go in. So if we focus on creating really great work and focus on, I believe when we do really great results, how do we get more word of mouth? Because it's that word of mouth marketing that's going to be sustainable over time, probably more so than, running ads and all of those kinds of things. So we want to be focused on how do we create more of that, which when we get into the platform, we'll talk a little bit more about that, which that's where we're going to right now. So his definition of platform is the combination of the tools, relationships, access, and audience that you have to bear on spreading your creative work. And it's not just once, but over the whole course of your career. So we're really looking at creating something that is sustainable. And this platform is really what you cultivate and grow, not just through your creative work, but for your creative work and whatever your work is. So your platform is really your fans. It's about creating a group of people who follow you, support you, love the work you do. It's like creating those, the 1,000 fans. If I have 1,000 fans, which means I have 1,000 people who will pretty much buy anything I put out when I put it out, then I will be able to make a livable income probably for the rest of my life. So it's how do I start to create this base of people? How do I find my 1,000 fans, right? And this comes down to, which we talk about a lot, it's building relationships with people. Often it is these one-on-one interactions. It's creating work that gets results for people. It's about being client focused, audience focused. That's what he talks about, because you always want to be audience focused. Always think about what it is that they need. And when you have this platform of people, your people, then whenever you do create more work, you have this great place to go into that you have a relationship with to figure out what do they want, what do they need, what will be most helpful. And then you create work that's in alignment with where they are at. And then they buy it and they tell more people, and it continues to grow. And he's talks about always, these are the most important people to speak to. Speak to your fans, to your audience. When you're thinking about crafting your message and sharing it, those are the people you want to talk to. Never mind the naysayers and the critics and all of those kinds of things. But we want to talk to our people. And this is where a lot of you've heard that thing, your network is your net worth. This is kind of what they're talking about, because these people know people. These are the people that, that you can go to. So this is one of the most important things you want to do, and you want to start building it now. You want to start building it before your work is even complete. Start sharing your thoughts. He's a huge fan of building your email list, because then you own it, right? When we're building our things on social media, if those platforms go away, which he's like ultimately everything eventually does, whereas email's been around for like 50 something years, you still have a way to communicate with your audience. And his suggestions are, he goes, you can build a list around anything. So for him, he started his list with just compiling a list of book recommendations they sent out once a month. And it started with, practically nobody on it. And then when he wrote his first book, he had a list of 5,000 people. And that's who he marketed his first book to. But he knew he had a group of 5,000 people who were interested in reading books, probably his book, because they were interested in the book recommendations that he was making. So it doesn't have to be this crazy list of, I better create like a lead magnet of some kind that people can download. It can literally be something really simple of, if you want to know, my thoughts that I've learned this week or this month or whatever. I think of James Clear and his 3-2-1. What is it? Three quotes, 2 somethings, and 1 question for the week that he does. Mark Manson's Monday newsletter thing, right? It's just a couple thoughts that he puts together. So it doesn't have to be crazy. It can actually be a great space for you to share your own thoughts and ideas and see what happens. So his sort of final thoughts on this are, so be in it for the long haul, build a body of work. Look at building something long-term. Think of creating this perennial career as opposed to just one perennial piece of work. You're building your platform, so always want to reach out to new fans that you can include and engage with. And the most important relationship is with your own fans, your own audience, those people who are already supporting you and buying your work. And that the marketing can't stop, the work can't stop, the hustle can't stop. And I put these are his words, the thing with the hustle, but I'm thinking not like Gary Vee hustle, but it's just that consistent work that we do must go on. And we do these things over and over and over and over and over again. Even when we think about the marketing piece, marketing can be anything, like we talked about yesterday, where it might be hanging out with just doing the fun stuff you like and the groups of people that you like to be with and sharing information. And I think when we realize that we haven't put an end date on these things, then we're able to do more of it. And then we can test, here's some marketing things I did. What's working, what isn't? I'm always in that space looking, where are my opportunities coming from? Where are some possibilities? Oh, wow, that worked really well. I wasn't even thinking about it. But because we just keep doing it, it's what we do. It's our life's work. I think we're just more open to what shows up for us. So don't just make it, but make it happen. And I loved this quote from him, because I really think it is doing things in a way that you care about, that it's going to be valuable, that's important to you, that's important to the world, that it has impact, that it has relevance. So it's not just about, I'm going to write a book for the sake of writing a book. I'm going to create a program because I hear courses are the next hottest thing and it's the easiest way to make money and it's the easiest way to scale. but really putting some thought behind, why do I want to create this? What's the relevance of creating this? What's the impact of that? And then doing it that way. And so that's my last permission slip for you, is that you have permission to slow this thing down, make changes, and actually create valuable work for the world. That is my little synopsis, opinion, thoughts about his work. And going back through it, I see how much it aligns with the things that we say and the work that we do, which is probably why I love his books and his work. You know, we're typically, we go with the people who believe what we believe. So yeah, I love Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, that is so aligned.
Right? I know.
So much, there's so much stuff here.
And he responds to emails, by the way. I emailed him before and he responds. That's cool too. People that are lined up, I like that. So yeah.
Very, very
and it's not a big book, right? It's like it's a skinny little book, but lots of information in it.
Such a refreshing perspective.
Yes.
To look at this as another book to add to my reading list. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I haven't read this book. I did read his book, The Obstacle is the Way. That's kind of and I thought it was really interesting when you shared that paragraph describing what the book is about. And it's like, my brain is like, okay, how did he go from that paragraph to that title? Because the title is really awesome.
Yeah.
The Obstacle is the Way is a really, it encapsulates that paragraph without making it sound like it's some boring book on some stoicism.
Exactly.
Which doesn't sound very sexy, right?
No.
But that premise that, the obstacle is the way, right? Like it's like, okay, that's a very interesting concept. So.
And I think it's feedback, it's testing, it's polishing, it's over and over and over again to is what the work I'm creating also alignment with what I'm saying it is and does. That's another big piece that he talks about, is that, so does my title, is it relevant? And then does the thing I create actually in alignment with how I'm describing it?
Yeah. It's just, and this stuff is the kind of stuff that sounds really easy when it's like, oh, just make sure, it's just like, oh, just fill in these 3 sentences. And that stuff is deceptively difficult.
Sit down and try it, see what happens.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's something I've always noticed about, writing copy and coming up with words to describe something, is that you have it right when it feels obvious.
Yeah.
And the words that stare back at you from that piece of paper or the screen, it almost makes you kick yourself, like, it's so simple, why didn't I think of this earlier? Or that's really obvious, that kind of thing. That was always an issue with my own work, actually, is that I knew I had nailed it if I delivered it to a client, and that's how they received it. And at the same time, it looks easy. And I've had more than one client say to me, oh, this is so easy for you. Oh, you just pull this stuff off the top of your head. And I'm like, no, you gotta be kidding me. Getting to that simplistic message is hard. Like, it's hard work. And it's important work, right? And it's the stuff we want to gloss over. It's the stuff we want to cram into formulas.
Yes.
And people get stuck on clever and catchy, but it doesn't match what they're offering. It doesn't match what people want, but it's clever and it's catchy, and they get this shit feedback that he was talking about there. It's like, if you come up with something that's cute, catchy, or clever, you're going to get a ton of shit feedback that gets you applause, and people are going to say that's amazing. They're going to love it because people love that stuff. It doesn't mean they buy it.
Exactly.
It's like, it doesn't mean that it's conveying what you want it to convey. And that can be one of the most frustrating things in the world, is to have this super cute, clever, catchy kind of a tagline or networking introduction or website headline or name of a program or something like that. People don't get it.
And that's what he mentions in that sentence with "this is a blank." He says it has to fit a genre that already exists. This is a book, this is a course, this is a program, this is a talk. It has to be something that people already understand and already know. This is a book about. He said, because I think it's Seth Godin that says, for anything to actually have a viable commercial success, it has to fit in a genre that people already understand.
Absolutely.
Like,
another thing that drives people crazy, right? Like, they don't want to say that they're a coach. They want to come up with a different word for it, to be clever and creative, and because they don't like that word because it's not 100% accurate, kind of a thing. But if you start making up titles that people don't get, and they can't put you in a bucket, they don't understand what it is, like, it's hard enough to explain the nuances of your work and how you're different from other people who do the same thing as you, without having to create an additional hurdle to explain what a success catalyst is.
yeah, I'm a change agent. Exactly.
It's just like, and it's the stuff that pleases us rather than the stuff that pleases potential clients. Potential clients want to say, oh, okay, you're a leadership consultant. I know what a leadership consultant is. I know what I know what a workshop deliverer is. I know what a coach is. So there's something there. Um, for them, like, the last thing you want is for your potential clients, customers, peers to feel stupid. And one of the things that you do when you get cute and clever and catchy and you use language that they don't understand is they don't get it, and then they don't want to talk to you because you made them feel stupid. And this might not be like a conscious thought where somebody says, oh, I'm a success manifestation catalyst. And they're like, I don't know what that is. I feel stupid. I don't want to talk to them. Like, that's not what happens. It's just kind of, you get this feeling like this conversation is going nowhere and I am uncomfortable for some reason. And the discomfort comes from, I don't understand it. I'm already in over my head. Same thing with jargon. That's why you lose people with jargon. It's like they feel like an outsider. They're not an insider into the club. They don't speak that language. It's off-putting, and people aren't always conscious of it. And they might smile and nod.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But it's not going anywhere.
Cool.
It's like,
interesting.
and I think that this is I think that these are the great challenges with putting unique, original, personal work out there, is finding a way to talk about it in a way that people kind of can grab onto and understand. Just, yeah. It's just,
We think it's boring. We don't want to go back there. It's like, oh, it's so boring, And even when I think of like his little, sentence or paragraph or thing there, you're right. I think we think, I'm just going to check it off the list. Let me fill in the blanks and I'll check it off the list. And the reality is we often come back to that thing 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 times to keep refining it, to keep going deeper, to keep getting more and more clarity with it. These things aren't just, tick off the box kind of things, one and dones. It's when we are creating really, like I say, I'm not talking about valuable pieces of work that we want to put out in the world that's going to last for a long time. It's not just the quick, let me check it off my list stuff. And
no, it's not. And I think too that sometimes we make compromises to move forward. And I think sometimes we have to do that because we cannot get the clarity without more of that feedback and the testing. Test early, test often, right? Is that we have to, and you know, this is the chicken and egg scenario. It's like you won't know until you test, but until you have something to test, you can't test. So it's like this, what comes first? It's like you take your best guess at it and you put it out there knowing that it's not right. Like it's not 100%, but this is as close as I can get it right now. I'm going to get more information. I'm going to refine it. And it's like, look at us 18 months later. And what are we doing this afternoon? We're revisiting our model. We're revisiting what we're offering. We're revisiting the name of our website, like everything. We're revisiting it because we have a whole bunch more data. And it's like, and it starts to feel like it's not a fit. There's something uncomfortable about it. So it's like time for the next iteration. What is this really about? What did we learn? Where are we going? And we already know. We haven't even done it yet. We already know it's not going to be perfect when we're finished. It'll just be ready for the next round of testing and feedback. And that's I think that this is, you know, when you talk about doing your life's work, about having that long-term kind of outlook, as we grow and evolve as people, our work is going to grow and evolve. And it's, even if it feels perfect right now in this moment, there's no guarantee that it's going to feel that way a year from now. And the sooner you get comfortable with that, the better.
Exactly.
There's a ton of freedom in that too.
A ton. It's just you do have to get comfortable with that, the uncertainty that's going to show up, because it's happening. it's
yeah, absolutely. It is absolutely fascinating.
Right? Here's something from the chat. I tell potential clients that I'm a business support specialist. The response has been like a VA. It opens the conversation to let them know I work behind the scenes with different software and platform used to operate business systems. I don't answer your phone, but I will make sure all your calendars are synced. One thing I do. I think it's a great example, you know, and I think the other piece of this too is if, you know, if you're noticing you're constantly getting people that are trying to fit you into a bucket, then you might want to look at how can I say this in a way that people actually understand the first time it comes out of my mouth.
And I have unsolicited feedback, but if that's what people are saying, you might want to embrace it, even if you don't feel that it fits.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've rejected the word coach when I was doing coach-like work. And as much as I wanted to say I was a consultant, I was a trainer, I was an advisor, I'm any damn thing except a coach, when people said, oh, here's Patty, she's my coach. Here's Patty, she's my coach. And it's like, yeah, so what do you do? I'm a coach. If there was one term that people got, it was marketing coach.
Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, that's what I do. Yeah. So many people out there don't know what a VA is. And maybe it's like I'm a virtual business assistant. Virtual executive assistant. I don't know. For small business owners. Something. I'm an assistant. I'm a business assistant. I'm a something. I'm just rambling now, as you can tell. But
that VA thing is that has taken off big time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a work in progress. That's right. Test, feedback, testing, feedback all the time.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, right? Like I honestly couldn't imagine if it just stopping, you know, like the what? Because the loop, it's that evolutionary thing that just keeps happening, especially like you say, when we're doing our life's work. It just, there's always learning, growing, evolving, changing. Oh, okay, yeah, I think we got it. We're on to something. partly. Now, what's next? What's next? Ah, I like this part. I don't like this part. This fits. This doesn't. And being willing to go back into that space. And I think that's where kind of that sort of that confidence in who you are and what you stand for really starts to play into, because it's often uncomfortable to be able to go to that space of, yeah, we're changing this up now. We're getting a new name now. We're doing this, we're doing that, we're switching this up because this is what's been working all along. Maybe just leave it. And it's like, but when you know it isn't right, and you get feedback saying that it isn't too, and then for your own self to know that this, no, I'm not quite there with how I want to bring my life's work in the world. There's something off here where it's not really a full expression of my life's work. There's some really important pieces that I'm not sharing that I feel are important for me to share. And so how do we um, just keep growing and evolving and pushing, not even pushing through, but stepping into the uncomfortableness and the uncertainty and creating what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, I can speak to my own experience, right? That I kind of have a little glimmer inside of what I really want to do and don't feel quite confident putting that out there. But through working with clients and getting feedback, um, like that stuff kind of erupts. It's like you're having a conversation, you're helping in a certain way, and then like the response is so positive, and then that starts to build your confidence, and you start to realize like, oh, it's all these things that I haven't been putting forward because I don't feel 100% about. I'm doing them in my work, I'm getting the feedback, and I'm building the confidence. I'm seeing how it's valuable. I'm seeing how people describe that particular thing, and it helps you to figure out what you should be doing and how you should be talking about it. It's a process, and it's this kind of a co-creation um, between you and your people.
Mm-hmm.
Of,
So
of really refining your work and figuring out what is it that I'm awesome at. And it's like a lot of our clients um, don't recognize their awesomeness because they assume everybody can do the things that are like their magical skills.
so true. Here's a question for you. A lot of people don't know what a coach is. How do you explain how a coach can help?
Anytime you start thinking about yourself, you're on the wrong track. It's the whole piece of marketing, everything about marketing is what does the client get out of it? It's like if they don't understand your job title, talk about what you do for them. It's like when people ask at a networking event, so what do you do? What they're really asking, and I encourage you to kind of translate this in your head, is what do you do for your clients? It's like what results do you help them get? What changes do you help them make? What awesome benefits do they get from their work with you? And speak to that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it's how many of those things can you think of? Because often we stop at one or two of the most obvious things that we do for people, but it's really great to sort of sit down and kind of brainstorm. Can I come up with 100 ways that what I do helps people? What's 100 problems that I solve or symptoms that I can cure or any of those kinds of things? Because what you do when you start letting your brain flow that way, even some of the simplest, weirdest kinds of things that you might help people with, it opens you up to recognizing opportunities when you hear them as well. When someone you kind of your spidey senses start tingling a little more when someone said, you're like, oh yeah, I can help with that. And then when they're asking you, that, like Patty says, that's how you explain what you do. You tell people what you do in ways of the problems that you solve, because people are asking, how can you help me?
Mhm.
As a coach, how can you help me?
Yeah. And it's like, what's the journey that you take people on, right? What does their before and after
Exactly.
story look like? These are the kinds of questions that you start asking yourself, right? And it's just like, here's the truth. They don't care what you do or how you do it. If they could get the result they're after in a pill form, they would take the pill, but only every time. Like they don't want to have sessions. They don't want to drag it out over months and months and months. They don't want um, um, insightful questions. They don't want homework. They don't want access to text you. They don't want support between sessions. They don't want any of the stuff that you deliver that you think is so valuable. They want the result they get at the end of the work. And the more you talk about that, the more you talk about their hopes and dreams, like the more you focus on that, the more effective you're going to be in your marketing and in your conversations. It's like it's really about taking that focus off of you and putting it 100% on them. And this is this chicken and egg thing that I'm talking about. You have to take your best shot at it. But when you talk to clients, you have enough sales kind of conversations with clients, and they will tell you exactly how to sell to them. They will tell you what they want, and it'll kind of hit your brain, and you go, seriously, that's what they're looking for? And then you just start telling people, oh, I help them get this thing, right? It's just, you know, I help them with this problem. I help them get this thing. And that's where the magic lies for everything.
Yeah.
It's a magic for all of this. It's all about the client.
Exactly. Client focused, audience focused, platform focused, however you want to say it. It's always about them.
So like, you know, like the I absolutely love supporting small businesses and solopreneurs so that they can do what they need to do, right? And it's like, if you want to slide in there and make your marketing more effective, think about what are the obstacles that are getting in the way of them doing what they need to do. When you say do what they need to do, what does that hope and dream look like at the end? And if you speak to those sorts of things, then you've got a marketing message that rocks. Because you help solopreneurs and entrepreneurs who are trying to fill in the blank overcome these obstacles that get in the way, right? Now they know what they can do with you. They know how you fit in. And they're able to understand it for themselves, but they're also able to understand it to tell other people. Not the easiest thing in the world to get this messaging right, but when you have it, like, and it works brilliantly.
Exactly. And so the message appears again. Signs from the universe. So important to pay attention to what's showing up, because you will get the clues.
Yes.
That's for sure. So tell us what we're learning tomorrow. What about our Wednesday tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow we are going to talk about aspiration. We're going to talk about what you need to do in order to do your life's work and to get paid for it. It's kind of the overall kind of a thing. We're actually going to share some of the stuff that we're working on right now that I talked about earlier, with us revisiting stuff and creating a new model. And we've gotten some really good insights over the last little while. So we're going to show you the big picture that we're working on right now. And so that's what tomorrow is going to be about.
Very exciting.
It's very vague. I promise to make it more concrete. Actually, that'll be the meta learning about how do you take this kind of conceptual stuff and make it concrete. If you like to think about models and metaphors, we're going to be giving an example of that tomorrow.
Perfect. Very, very, very cool. So
yeah.
With that,
we will say have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Same bad time.
Same bad channel.
Bye now.
Bye.